The match between Argentina and England at the 1986 World Cup was never just about football. From the moment the draw placed the two teams on the same side of the bracket, it became clear that this quarterfinal would carry a weight far heavier than 90 minutes of play. History, politics, national pride, and unresolved emotions all converged on this single match. Only 4 years earlier, Argentina and the United Kingdom had faced each other in the Falklands War. Although the conflict was short, its impact was deep, especially in Argentina, where the defeat was felt as a national trauma. For many Argentines, the memory of that war was still raw. While the players themselves were not soldiers, the emotional context surrounding the match was impossible to ignore. In Argentina, the media framed the game as more than a sporting contest. It was seen as an opportunity for symbolic revenge, a chance to restore dignity on the world's biggest stage. In England, the approach was more restrained, but the awareness of the political background added pressure and attention. This was a match that the entire football world was watching closely. Argentina arrived in Mexico determined to rewrite their recent World Cup history. The disappointment of 1982 was still fresh, and expectations were initially modest. However, as the tournament progressed, Argentina began to grow in confidence. Under coach Carlos Bilardo, the team was tactically disciplined, defensively organized, and mentally resilient. At the heart of everything stood Diego Armando Maradona. By 1986, he was already a global superstar, but this tournament felt different. Maradona was not simply playing well, he was dominating matches. He demanded the ball constantly, even in the most difficult moments, and his influence was undeniable. Every attack flowed through him. Every moment of inspiration seemed to come from his feet. England's journey to the quarterfinals was less dramatic but effective. After an inconsistent start, they found rhythm, largely thanks to the goals of Gary Lineker. England relied on structure, physical presence, and efficiency. They respected Argentina, but they believed in their own strengths. When the quarterfinal matchup was confirmed, anticipation reached its peak. Argentina versus England was never going to be an ordinary World Cup game. As kickoff approached at the Estadio Azteca, the sense of expectation was overwhelming. Everyone understood that this match had the potential to become a defining moment in football history. The stage for this match could not have been more dramatic. The game was played at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, a stadium that already carried its own powerful history. It was a place where World Cup finals had been decided and legends had been born. On that afternoon, the stadium was completely full, with more than 114,000 spectators packed into the stands, creating an atmosphere that felt heavy and overwhelming even before the first whistle. The conditions were far from easy. The high altitude of Mexico City made breathing more difficult, especially for players who were not used to it. The heat was intense, and the thin air drained energy faster than usual. Every sprint required more effort. Every recovery run felt longer. From the opening minutes, it was clear that physical endurance would play a major role in deciding the outcome of the match. England arrived with a clear identity. Under manager Bobby Robson, the team was built on discipline, organization, and physical strength. England focused on maintaining a solid defensive shape and using long balls to push the game forward. Aerial duels were a key part of their strategy, and challenges were strong and uncompromising. The English players were determined to impose themselves physically and make the match uncomfortable for their opponents. Argentina, on the other hand, arrived with a very different approach. Their game was based on control, technical quality, and intelligent movement. Short passes were used to keep possession and slow the tempo when needed. The Argentine players showed patience, waiting for the right moments to accelerate the play. Their confidence came not from physical dominance, but from belief in their ability on the ball. At the center of everything was Diego Armando Maradona. Even before the match began, all eyes were on him. At just 25 years old, Maradona was already recognized as one of the most gifted footballers in the world. But this tournament felt different. There was a sense that Maradona was not just playing football. He was carrying responsibility, he was carrying expectations, and in many ways he was carrying an entire nation on his shoulders. From the opening minutes, the tension on the pitch was obvious. England pressed aggressively, closing down spaces quickly and challenging every loose ball. Argentine players were immediately surrounded when they received possession. Maradona in particular was targeted. Every time he touched the ball, English defenders moved toward him without hesitation. Fouls followed. Contact was constant. The message was clear: England would not allow him time or freedom. Argentina responded with composure. They continued to pass the ball patiently, refusing to be drawn into chaos. Their movement off the ball was careful and calculated. They waited for gaps to appear, knowing that one moment of creativity could change the game. The contrast in styles made the match fascinating, with strength and structure facing technique and intelligence. As the first half progressed, the physical battle intensified. Challenges became harder. Tempers slowly began to rise. The referees struggled at times to maintain full control of the match, as emotions from both sides threatened to boil over. Despite the intensity, clear scoring chances were rare. Both teams were cautious, fully aware that a single mistake could be decisive at this stage of the World Cup. England continued to rely on their physical presence, pushing forward through wide areas and set pieces. Argentina absorbed the pressure and looked for moments to break forward through Maradona's vision and close control. The crowd reacted to every touch, every foul, and every near chance, adding to the sense that something dramatic was building. When the halftime whistle finally blew, the score remained 0-0. On paper, nothing had changed, but the feeling inside the stadium told a very different story. The match felt unstable, balanced on a knife edge. Both teams walked off the pitch knowing that the second half would decide everything. And deep down, everyone sensed that this game was moving toward a moment that would be remembered forever. The second half began with an intensity that suggested both teams understood the importance of the next few moments. The score was still level, but the balance felt fragile. One action, one decision, or one mistake could decide everything. Just 6 minutes after the restart, the match changed forever. Maradona received the ball near the edge of the penalty area and moved forward with purpose. A quick exchange and a deflection lifted the ball high into the air, dropping toward the English goal. Goalkeeper Peter Shilton immediately stepped off his line, confident in his height and reach. Maradona continued his run, watching the ball carefully as it descended. What happened next lasted only a second, but its impact would last a lifetime. Maradona jumped alongside Shilton. Instead of heading the ball, he subtly extended his left hand and made contact first, pushing the ball into the net. The movement was fast, almost invisible in real time. The referee had a clear view of the goal. The linesman kept his flag down. The whistle never came. For a brief moment, there was confusion. Then the goal was awarded. English players reacted instantly. They surrounded the referee, protesting with anger and disbelief. Shilton was furious, pointing toward Maradona and shouting that it had been a handball. But the decision was final. There was no video replay, no second chance. Argentina were leading 1-0. Maradona ran away celebrating, fully aware of what he had done. Later, he would describe the goal as being scored partly with the head of Maradona and partly with the hand of God. The phrase entered football folklore instantly. For England, it was injustice. For Argentina, it felt like fate. But what followed would remove any doubt about Maradona's genius. Just 4 minutes later, Maradona collected the ball deep inside Argentina's half. There was still work to do. England were organized, defenders were positioned, but Maradona turned and began to run. He glided past the first challenge with ease. Then another defender tried to stop him, but Maradona shifted his body and continued forward. His balance was extraordinary. The ball seemed glued to his feet. As he crossed the halfway line, English players chased desperately, struggling to keep up. He beat a third defender, then a fourth. Each touch was perfectly measured. The crowd rose higher with every step, sensing something extraordinary unfolding in front of them. As Maradona entered the penalty area, Peter Shilton rushed out to close the angle. With remarkable calm, Maradona touched the ball slightly to the side, avoided the goalkeeper, and calmly rolled it into the empty net. The stadium exploded. It was a goal that defied logic and description, a run of more than 60 meters, 5 defenders beaten, complete control from start to finish. It was football played at its absolute highest level. Years later, it would be officially voted the greatest goal in World Cup history. In the space of just a few minutes, Maradona had produced 2 moments that defined his legacy. One controversial, one universally admired. Together, they captured the complexity of his genius and ensured that this match would never be forgotten. England refused to accept defeat. Despite the shock of conceding 2 goals in such a short span, they pushed forward with urgency and determination. Their pressure eventually paid off when Gary Lineker rose above the Argentine defense and headed the ball into the net, reducing the deficit to 2-1. Suddenly, the match was alive again. The final minutes were filled with tension and uncertainty. England attacked relentlessly, sending crosses into the penalty area and forcing Argentina to defend deeper and deeper. Every clearance felt desperate. Every loose ball created anxiety. Argentina, visibly exhausted, relied on discipline and experience to survive. Maradona dropped back into midfield, helping his teammates, drawing fouls, and slowing the tempo whenever possible. His leadership was not only technical, but emotional. As the clock ticked down, the pressure became unbearable. The crowd reacted to every touch, every tackle, and every whistle. England came close, but the equalizer never arrived. When the final whistle finally sounded, Argentina had secured a 2-1 victory. Players collapsed to the ground in relief and celebration. For England, it was heartbreak. For Argentina, it was triumph. This match became the defining chapter of the 1986 World Cup. Maradona went on to lead Argentina to the title, producing performances that confirmed his status as one of the greatest players of all time. But it was this quarterfinal against England that truly shaped his legend. Decades later, Argentina versus England in 1986 remains more than a football match. It is remembered as a moment when controversy, brilliance, emotion, and history collided. A reminder that sometimes, a single game can leave a permanent mark on the sport forever. And stories like this are why football is more than just a game. It is history, emotion, controversy, and genius, all coming together in unforgettable moments. If you enjoy deep stories that reveal the untold side of football, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here, we explore the matches, players, and moments that changed the game forever. Stay with us, because there are many more football stories still waiting to be told.